Do you ever find yourself questioning what your purpose is in life? You may have even clicked on this video because you know what your purpose is, but you may not be that passionate about it. Well, today we're going to walk through finding out what your passion is, turning that passion into purpose so that you're doing something that you want to do rather than doing something that you feel you have to do. And then we're going to set some new goals around that newfound purpose. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Mahin and I'm a physiotherapist specialising in pain management based in the UK. On this channel we explore lifestyle strategies and tools to help manage pain and create healthier and happier lives. Today we're discovering how to turn your passion into your purpose. So let's get into it. Let's first start by thinking about what your passion may be. Now I'm going to pose a few questions as we go through this section of the video, just to get your brain juices flowing so we can discover what your passion might be. So feel free to pause the video at any time if you need to, and then just unpause it when you're ready to move on. So firstly, what would you happily give your time up to do for free if you didn't have to worry about paying bills? Now, for me, this would be a mixture of seeing patients, making YouTube videos, and probably a bit of teaching as well. Once we've had a think about what we're willing to give up our time for to do for free, we can then start to think about what our ideal ordinary week might look like. So I had to think about this earlier, and I've written down what I would like to include in my ideal ordinary week. So what I would include for mine, as well as what I've just mentioned around seeing patients, doing these YouTube videos and teaching, I'd also like my week to include spending time with my friends and family, exercising and doing yoga daily, and spending time outdoors and playing different forms of sports such as cycling, playing golf, cricket and walking as well. So have a think about what your ideal ordinary week looks like, and when we start to think about how we'd like to fill our time, if we're not tied to work or anything that we have to do for money or expectation, then we can start to discover actually what we're passionate about and what we really want to get out of life. And don't worry if this isn't coming to you immediately. If you can't think about what to fill that week with, then I'll pose a few other questions to you. Again, pause, have a think about this, jot a few things down if you need to, and see if there's any similarities in your answers to these questions. What is the one thing that you can't stay away from? What is the one thing you spend your free time doing? What are you rushing home from work to do? What do you think about in the shower? And what would you be the most upset about if you didn't have it in your life anymore? So there's a few questions there just to have a think about, and just write down your answers and see what you come up with. And finally, if you still need some prompts to come to what your passion might be, have a think of the following. What matters to you the most, and what brings you the most amount of energy? So hopefully you may have an idea about what you're passionate about, but again, don't worry if these ideas aren't flowing to you straight away. We're going to be going deeper into this in an exercise in the next part of the video. Now it's time to think about what your purpose may be. Now this can be slightly different from your passion, okay? Not everyone's purpose and passion aligns. So now think about the following. What do you think that you are on this earth to do? And what skills do you have that are useful to the world? So again, take a moment to think of those questions. So what do you think you're on this earth to do, and what skills do you have that are most useful to the world? So this is very, very specific to you. It's not what you think you should say or what you think society expects you to say. It's very much what you feel that you can give to the world, okay? So have a real think about this. Do you have any particular skills that might be useful to the world? Or do you feel that you are here for a certain purpose? Do you feel you have like a calling, as some people say, you know, why are you here? What are you here to do? And just so there's a little bit more clarity, I'm going to go through my own answers to those questions in the next part of the video as well. So what I mean by passion is for you and purpose is for others is that there's so many worthwhile causes in the world that we could fight for. But it's actually choosing what we're passionate about and what we want to dedicate our time towards. So for example, right now, my passion is not saving the climate. Obviously, I care about the environment and I try to live as sustainably as I can, but I don't want to start kind of becoming an activist or start making YouTube videos on saving the environment. But that's not to say I might not become a climate activist in the future, because my passions may change. But the key thing is that we can't be and do everything. So everyone has their passion and everyone has their own purpose, and it's very, very individual. We can't fight all the battles that are out there in the world. And for a lot of us, we might have a really clear purpose, but but we're not that passionate about it. And pursuing this purpose when we're not that passionate about it just leads to burnout, resent, and not being able to pursue either our passion or our purpose then in the future. So it's really key that you look after yourself by pursuing your passion and turning that passion into your purpose, because your passion can also help the world as well, and that's the key thing to remember here. So let's go a little bit deeper now and look at how we can turn that passion into purpose. So I recently read the book Ikigai, and on the back of this book was this Venn diagram. And the people of Japan believe that everyone has an Ikigai, or a purpose, and that's a reason to jump out of bed in the morning. Now I'm going to go through what I put in each of these sections of the Venn diagram so that you can see how I've looked to match all of these areas to then find my purpose. So what I put down for what I love is educating and helping others improve their health and lead happier lives, traveling, having fun, and learning and growing. Okay, so that's what I put down for me, for what I love. For what the world needs, I put down kind of more accessible, evidence-based information on how to manage pain in the long term, knowledge about how lifestyle changes can improve health and happiness. So there is what the world needs, and I've got what I love, and they're not completely matched up yet. Okay, so there's still a bit of a disparity in terms of what I love and what the world needs, but we'll see how we can come together with that in a moment. So then there's what you can be paid for. So I put working as a physiotherapist and making these YouTube videos, although I'm not earning any money through YouTube at the moment. You know, eventually, hopefully through ad revenue and also maybe sponsorships, I might be able to earn a little bit of money through that. But then also things like online courses that I hope to do in the future, and so on. And then finally, what you are good at. So for what you are good at, I put helping others improve their health and manage their pain through my experience as a physio, specialised in pain management, and also my communication skills and my ability to connect with others. That's something people have always told me that I'm quite good at, you know, connecting with lots of different people. So I put that down as something that I am good at. Hopefully, if you're still watching this video, it's different over a screen, obviously, but hopefully you get a sense of that a little bit. And then the final thing I put what I was good at is teaching. So there I've kind of filled in each of the sections of the Venn diagram there. And in the center of the Venn diagram is what your Ikigai is. And Ikigai loosely translates to your purpose as well. So before I go into a little bit more detail around that Ikigai model, I just want to tell you a little bit of a story about how I kind of realized that my passions can meet my purpose. So when I was doing physiotherapy at uni, I always thought that my end thing that I would do would be that I would start my own private practice, and it's something I really wanted to do. So all the way throughout uni and my first couple of years of working as a physio, that was my goal. That's what I really wanted to do. And then the more I started to work as a physio, the more I realized that I don't think my skills would have been as well aligned with working as a private physio. And the reason being is I think it's a really hard job. A lot of people do it, so you know, hats off to them, but I think it's a really hard job to tread the line between being a good physio and also being a good business person. So a good physio will want the people coming to see them to be able to self-manage their condition so that they can go away and they don't need the physio anymore. A good business person will want to keep that person coming back, so obviously they can increase their profits. Now, both sides of the coin are absolutely fine, but I think because for me, I am always about helping that person to be able to self-manage their condition, whatever it might be, I didn't think I'd be a good business person with that business model. So I kind of moved away from that service model and I went more towards this content-based model, which I'm doing now. And my other thought with this was that if I'm able to do something like this, so my YouTube videos are obviously all free, then more people can access it. So not everyone can access private physiotherapy because the costs can be quite high. But also what I'm doing is I'm changing from that one-to-one approach to the one-to-many approach. And I think that's really important in this day and age because the internet allows us to do that. So the internet is a really powerful way of accessing lots of people. And at the moment, what the world needs more than anything else is more information and education around improving health through lifestyle and also managing chronic pain, because chronic pain is one of the leading causes of disability in the world. In fact, sorry, it is the leading cause of disability in the world at the moment. Me working in one private practice in one location in the world is great, but I would like to have a wider audience that I can hopefully educate so that they can improve their health and manage their pain better. So people across the world can access this information and hopefully it will help them as well. And also there isn't a requirement for people to pay for this. So, you know, as I mentioned, kind of YouTube, there are ways of earning money through YouTube, but it wouldn't rely on somebody actually paying me a fixed cost for anything. So yeah, that kind of made me realize that perhaps my passion is more aligned to doing this content-based business through YouTube and so on, rather than being more in the service model with the private practice. And that's kind of how I saw that maybe my passions can be aligned with my purpose, because there's lots of ways that we can turn our passion into our purpose and earn money from it as well. So, you know, these days there's so many options to do that, which I'll mention briefly in a moment. So this realization of actually putting content out there to yourself through the means of YouTube is actually how I have solved that what the world needs part that fits in with what I want to do. Okay, so that's that kind of bit ticked off there with what the world needs. So I've kind of answered that question, and I'm doing something related to hopefully what the world needs with that. So then the next thing is what I love. Now, before I mention about how that ties in, I just want to mention what my values are. So I have kind of three areas or three values that I really think of. So one of them is personal development. I'm always looking to learn and grow, and I really enjoy that. The other thing is kindness and helping others, and that's reflected in kind of the work that I'm doing. And then the last one is freedom and fun. So actually doing things through YouTube and running more of an online business means that I am not tied down to a specific location or tied down to specific working hours either, because a lot of the stuff I do I pre-record and put out, so I can do that at any time that I need to. So that actually allows me more flexibility and freedom to do things like travel, which fits in with what I love on that Venn diagram. And this will also hopefully mean eventually that I'll have more flexibility with my time, so I have more time for opportunities for fun and spending time with kind of friends and family and so on. So again, that kind of fits in with that ideal ordinary week that we spoke about initially. And obviously having more flexibility with time will mean that I'm able to do more of the outdoors things that I want to do as well. And kind of tying in with the personal development value is I've been really fortunate to progress quite quickly early on in my career. So I now actually feel that I have more room for growth and learning in this new space of, you know, online content creation, and that really excites me. So using a diagram like the Ikigai one and going through an exercise similar to what I've just done is a really good way of seeing how you can match up what you love, which is obviously your passions, with what you're good at and what the world needs. And when it comes to what you can be paid for, as I mentioned before, there are so many opportunities these days because of the internet that actually you can turn anything that you're good at and what the world needs into a source of income. And whether that is product-based, service-based, or content-based, such as through YouTube, blogs, or podcasts, all of these ideas and all of these different business models can be monetized now. And this just requires a little bit of out-the-box thinking, because it doesn't always fit in with the conventional career path. So it doesn't fit in with the usual ladder that you might take to progress your career, but it might provide more opportunity to see your passions being turned into your purpose, because you're actually able to have a little bit more freedom about what you do with your time, hopefully in the long term. Initially, like I have been doing for the kind of last 6 to 8 months, there is limited flexibility because I'm working full time, but then I'm doing, you know, exploring these passions on the side, and that takes up a lot of time. But eventually, you know, if you start to see some kind of income from it or whatever, you can actually look to have more flexibility and freedom as you go forward. So everything that I've said up till now is what it might be for you in this moment. So it might be what your passions are and what your purpose might be in this moment. But this isn't set in stone, and often we change throughout the seasons of our lives, and our passions and our purpose change as well, and that's okay. It's good to be flexible, and we don't want to be doing things because, you know, we were passionate about something 5 years ago. You know, we might change, and it's important to change with our passions and our purpose as well. So try, fail, and discover what your true purpose is through trial and error. And this is really important because it's so individual. Like, your passion and your purpose will be very different to the person next to you. So it's really important that you go through this trial period for yourself to see what works for you, because everyone will be different. So we've started with our why, now we can think about the how and the what. To move from our known purpose to our desired outcome, we must have a process, and this is the how. So we have the process, which is the how, and we have the outcome, which is the what. And here it's really important to think of process versus outcome-based goals. I'll share examples of both process and outcome-based goals from my own life around reaching a wider audience through YouTube. So the outcome-based goal would be to help 1,000 people make lifestyle changes to manage their pain and improve their health in 6 months' time through this channel. The process-based goal would be to publish one high quality video weekly for the next 6 months. The key difference between the two goals is that I have direct control over the process-based goal, but I don't have direct control over the outcome-based goal. And that's why it's really important to set process-based goals, as we have the most influence over these, and this allows us to have more clarity when we're moving towards our outcome. A lot of the time, if we're setting outcome-based goals and we don't really have a roadmap of how to get there, it can be really, really daunting because we just have this big outcome goal and no way to kind of move towards it. So by setting process-based goals, they are things within our control that we can work on daily, weekly, monthly, so that we can get to that eventual desired outcome. Reward yourself for the process rather than the achievement of the end outcome, because ultimately it's these systems and habits that lead to us achieving our goals. And you can see this in successful people around the world. So if you look at, Ronaldo, for example, he didn't just become the best footballer overnight. It was down to kind of his processes and his systems that he did daily to make him the footballer that he's become, that made him the best footballer in the world. And no, this isn't one of those kind of Ronaldo Messi debates, because really there is no debate. It has always been Ronaldo. And this is something I think about for my future children, that I would really like to reward their efforts rather than the outcome, because it's the efforts that are so much harder. It's great when we get the outcome, fantastic, we've reached that achievement. The reward is already there because we've had that achievement, but it's the processes and the systems that are the most hardest part, and they're the bits that aren't rewarded throughout. So I'd really like to my future child to reward their efforts, rather than the outcomes. The outcomes will always be rewarded anyway. Now, a way to keep on track with our process-based goals is through a to-do list. And what a to-do list allows us to do is, first of all, get all of the things down on paper that we need to be able to do, so they're not kind of swimming around in our heads. We can have them down on paper, so that allows our mind to focus on other things that it wants to focus on. And actually, by having things down on paper as well, is we can tick them off as they're achieved. So actually what we're getting then is those small daily wins, and those little ticks that we see actually have a positive reinforcement that encourages the behavior to happen again the next day. And that's how we can slowly start to move towards our end goal through the processes that we've set up for ourselves. Okay, so we've talked about our passions and turning our passions into our purpose. We've then talked about how we can set process-based goals rather than outcome-based goals, and we've talked a little bit about habits as well. Now, when we're putting all of this together, I find that this model here is quite useful to think of or have in the back of our minds. Now, as you can see here, we've got purpose in the middle, and I've used this same diagram on previous videos with values in the middle, but today we're going to use it with purpose in the middle. So we've already turned our passions into our purpose, and that purpose then is within the circle in this diagram. Now, around that diagram, we've got long-term goal, short-term goal, and our habits as well. So what our long-term goal might be is, again, that kind of outcome-based goal that we might have. And there's no problem in setting those outcome-based goals, as long as we're setting the process-based goals as well, so that we know how to get to that end outcome. So the process-based goal might be that short-term goal. So it might be a measure of something that we're doing in the next week or over the next month, so that we can get to that big goal that might be 6 months or a year down the line. And then finally what we have is our daily habits, which is going to help us to get there. So I'm going to talk about one that I've set myself for this year, for 2022. So I have been really kind of variable with my exercise over the kind of last year or so, mainly because of lockdown, but then also because of time. So I've been doing home-based workouts, and I've been doing walks and things like that, playing different sports. But I really want to get back into actually building up some strength for myself. And one of the things I'd love to do is to start CrossFit. Now, thinking back to my passions and what I love is that I'd like to be exercising, and I'd like to be doing that daily. Now, one of the things I'd love to do in the future is to join CrossFit. Now, I know at the moment I wouldn't feel comfortable going straight into their CrossFit class, because it's been a while since I've really kind of done any proper strength training or any kind of variable training really. So my long-term goal is to join CrossFit in 6 months' time. My short-term goal is to go to the gym consistently 3 times a week. okay? And my habits underneath that is to do some daily exercise, and that could be in the form of walking, it could be yoga, or it could be those days that I go to the gym, that's my form of exercise. But I'd really like to just increase my general activity levels even outside of going to the gym, because as I've talked about before in my videos, you know, going to the gym for an hour 3 times a week isn't enough movement for the week, especially if we're sedentary for the rest of the time. So some daily movement, which is my daily habit. Then my short-term goal is to be able to be going to the gym 3 times a week consistently. Let's say I look to do that over the next couple of months. Maybe I'll say over the next 2 months I want to absolutely have that nailed down. And then in 6 months' time I'm going to be moving towards, you know, looking to join CrossFit. With anything goal related, it's always important to remain flexible, because circumstances change, goals change, our purpose might change as well. But what's really important is to have a solid system. Because if you've got a solid system in place, all you have to do is meet the next little thing along the ladder, and slowly you'll get to your end goal. So friends, if you enjoyed today's video, you'll find the ones in my happiness and growth playlist helpful as well. These go into further ways in which we can improve our happiness in line with our values and our purpose. So be sure to check that out. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next week.